Shalom, Israel. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge.
That's right.
Started out on 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahana. And since 1969, we've been teaching the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that we are the true Jews of the Bible.
That's right.
I am Priest and Officer 50 LASHAWAN, having the honor of holding down the Hebrew class tonight for Priest and Officer 5000 Hazahab.
That's right.
Joining me today is Priest and Officer 5000 Yatazar. Let's clap it up.
Sounds good. That's right.
So I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to call this class the Fundamentals of the Holy Tongue. That is the LASHAWAN QADASH. And this is meant to be a very, very basic class, as if you've never seen this before. And we're calling it Fundamentals because it's going to be fun. Starts out that way. So first thing we're going to do is how I learned Hebrew. I learned from the great teachers of this school that only in the ISUPK was I taught this. This wasn't taught to me anywhere else. And I was an absolute complete beginner with no former knowledge. So the teachers in the school are excellent. And more or less a year later, I'm very privileged to actually be teaching this class for you. So I'm going to start off with how I learned the alphabet in English, because I had to bring myself back many, many years to when I was in grade school, and I learned the English language. And learning the English language is actually more complicated than the Hebrew language. So the Hebrew alphabet is actually the oldest in the world. And it came before all these other languages. And you can actually see this in this book called Biblical Hebrew. It's a text and workbook. It's from Yale University, okay, written by Bonnie Pajardi Cattell, Vicky Hoffer, and Rebecca Apps-Wright. And you see immediately on page 3, it'll tell you that the Hebrew alphabet is the oldest in the world, still in use today, okay? Originally, only consonants were used. So that means things like vowels we have in the English didn't exist or weren't used in the way we use them today, which makes it far more complicated. So when we learned English, we learned the alphabet this way. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So right there alone, what we're working with is 26 letters. So this right here is 26 letters, the English alphabet. Okay? And there were no vowels in the Hebrew, meaning A, E, I, O, and U. So the sounds that we're learning in English is already more complicated than what we're going to be learning in Hebrew. Now, the very first way we learned this in school, notice what I did. I wrote from left to write. Now, why did we learn it this way? Well, our oppressor likes to do things backwards in order to confuse us. And Hebrew is actually written from right to left. So the first thing is, okay, let's take what we've been taught before and let's just reverse the order so our brain can think in a different way. Because the very first time I saw these letters backwards, I was like, really? It really confused me at first. So the first thing to do is let's just write the letters the opposite way. Just because we actually read Hebrew from right to left, and we also write it also from right to left. So we're not getting into any words or yet, but we're just getting the alphabet itself down. So if this was in the Hebrew world, we change it like this and write it this way. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So what we did is just simply reverse how we wrote this and how it's being displayed. So now we are writing it from right to left. So this is the first thing to teach your brain. Instead of always going this way, how I've done it for 40-something years like this, until up to a year ago, when I learned Hebrew, it's not written this way. The books are also written from the back to the front. It's totally different. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, as in the alphabet song when we learned as a kid. Remember this was a rhyme? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Remember the song? Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. That was like a nursery rhyme in a way. A song of how you actually memorized these letters. So the very first thing is now set in your head, hopefully. From now on, you're going to see everything being written from right to left. Okay, so this is a very important concept. Next, the Hebrew alphabet only has 22 letters. So there's no vowels in there, and it's only consonants. So since we understand English, most of us grew up with it and understand that this is our native tongue, so to say. Learning Hebrew, at first, it might seem overwhelming, but it's actually really easy. When you start, how I learned best is, well, we understand English already. So let's keep it with the English pronunciation of the sounds. Because if you think about what English does, think of how many sounds there are. You have this letter A, and you have B, C, D, E. It's like what's following each of these characters sounds like the letter E. Then you have F, G. You You see how it has the E in front of this, in front of that? Then H, I, J. All right, what's following that? J, A, K, K, A, L. That's like E, L. M is like E, M. N is like E, N. So you're seeing it's already very, very complicated as far as how each of these letters are pronounced. And Hebrew is far more simpler. The main sound is ah. And it's actually the very first character. And you're going to almost hear an ah in every single character in Hebrew. Now they say, my sheep know the sound of my voice. Yahushua says that. Think like a sheep. This is so easy. The language is so simple. A sheep can understand this. How does a sheep sound? Ah, bah. It's really that simple. So if you come down to the fundamentals of what is really simple, it's amazing how Hebrew truly is, because after looking at English, this is very, very complicated. And it's very hard to figure out how to put words together and things in this. Even though it might be secondary nature to you because you've done it all your life, you'll see learning Hebrew is far more easier. So what we're going to do is stick to first sound. So I'm an audio person. I'm also a visual person. Those two things combined is what makes it work really well together, Hebrew. But first, I just want to get the sound down, because when you see these characters for the first time, it's very confusing, especially the Assyrian. Now you're going to see the true ancient Hebrew, and you're going to say, wow, okay, that's not so bad. That looks very similar to the English. You'll see the characters that they'll start coming across. But when you look at the Assyrian, it's all like squiggly lines and dots and all this stuff they've added to it, because the Jewish man tried to add vowels and all these other things and made it more sophisticated. But in reality, he's making the language harder to understand when it's a lot simpler than what they portray it as.
He didn't make it sophisticated, he bastardized it.
God on God. And that would be the Yiddish tongue that you're hearing today. Okay, so now we learned from going from left to right. Now we're going from right to left. Now we're going to just do the sounds. Okay, let's not worry about symbols right now. Just sounds of how this Hebrew alphabet works. So the first sound is ah. Is that seeable? Yeah, it's okay. Let's do this here. And that ah sound is the basis of the entire alphabet. You're going to hear all these characters essentially have an ah following it. So let's do the second one. Ba. Ah, ba. Notice the same ah sound. Next one is ga. Again, notice the ah sound is still in. Ah, ba, ga. The next one is da. Again, notice it's the same ah sound in every single one of these. Ah, ba, ga, da. Next one is ha. So the first sequence of letters, notice they all have the ah sound in it. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha. The ah, it's like ah. It's all in every single one of these letters. Now, to try to memorize a long sequence like this took me a long time to do. Now, some brothers like to break this up, Hebrew, into like, say, 2 rows of 11. So they split it like 11 and 11 to do it that way. 11 characters is really long. It's like, think of phone numbers. Phone numbers are essentially 10 characters or 11 characters, and how many people can actually remember everybody's phone number? Especially today, we have our phones. We just stick it in our contacts books. I know I can't remember people's number. I can barely remember my own at times. So you put it in our contacts book, it's just easier to remember. So what I did, I broke this up. And what I'm going to do is make a new song. So the new song is actually 5 characters. Okay? Ah, ba, ga, da, ha. And also that is 5 sounds. So you have 5 physical characters, and there's 5 physical sounds. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go on the next set, and this is also going to be 5 characters and another 5 sounds. I like counting on my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just makes it very simple for me to learn instead of huge number sets and letters like that. So the next set of characters would be this. Always go back and repeat what you previously did, because repetition is the key to letting this sink in. You're going to have to repeat this over and over and over and over again. And every time you hear it, it's just going to sink in further and further and further. So I'm taking this very, very slow, as if you've never seen this before at all. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha. Next sequence. Wa, za, ka. Now, when I say this is as if I got something stuck in my throat. Ka, ka. All right, there's something there. It's not ka, it's ka. This sound. Waza, ka, ta, ya. Now, what do we have? We have 5 more characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one is a single sound. Wa, za, ka, ta, ya. So when I memorize this, I also like, okay, this is getting a little bit complicated now. I got 10 things I got to memorize. So how can I memorize each set? Another thing I do is I remember the first character of the set. So I know the first set starts with ah. I know the second set starts with wa. So if I can't remember all these yet, I just go back to, all right, what was the very first character of each set? Okay. Now the next set is five more characters with 5 more sounds. let's go through this again. Abagadaha, 5. Wazakataya, 5. Next set. Ka. La. Ma. Na. Sa. Here's the next set of 5 sounds and characters. Kala mana sa. Kala mana sa. This set starts with ka. So you're seeing a song start to develop here? Our song is Abagadaha Wazakataya Kala mana sa. And all we're doing is using the pretty much in each letter. Unlike this complicated English, they have all kinds of variances in there. It's very simple what we're doing. Now, the next part is I, pa, taza. Now, the pattern gets broken up a little bit here. What we have here is 1, 2, 3 characters. But technically, it's 4 sounds in a song. The taza is the only character that sounds like 2. So think of 1, 2, 3, 4, as far as sounding it goes. It's only 3 characters, but it's 4 in terms of sound. Syllables. So like when I'm memorizing this next set, okay, I know that we have the I. It starts with the I. So I'm memorizing 5 at a time, 5 at a time, 5 at a time. 3 characters with 4 syllables. And then let's do the remaining ones. You're going to see there's 4 characters and 4 syllables, which will be qua, ra, sha, tha. And this is the completion of our song. This row starts with the qua. So this row has 4 characters, qua, ra, sha, tha. 4 syllables, qua, ra, sha, tha. So I memorized this sequence for a specific reason, because it just makes it like you're writing a song or a poem, and it makes it very easy to memorize. In order to eventually read Hebrew, you have to get the sound down first. Notice we didn't draw any Hebrew characters yet, because if you get this part down, the Hebrew characters, you could actually write it in the ancient Hebrew, and you can actually write it in the Assyrian or modern Hebrew and translate it very easily. So if you can arrange the sounds in English, since we pretty much all know English, then you could just take the words as you sound them out and then just translate them very easily into the ancient and the modern version. Any questions yet, sir?
No questions. If you have any questions, type them in the chat.
Okay. So, our new song, Abagadaha, Wazakataya, Kalamanasa, Ipataza, Kwarashata. So that's how I broke it down. Okay. Now, so far, all we've done is English. If you're learning Spanish, Spanish works the same way too, right? Like the English, you have the characters that go from left to right. You can more or less see the same sounds and syllables, but now we're doing everything right to left. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is show that these sounds we wrote are actually beginnings of entire words, but they're just shortened down. So, what I'm going to show you now is what you see in English here are actually the beginnings of words, because the Hebrew language is actually pictorial. When you see the characters, you're going to see that the pictures actually represent the sound in a way. So let's go now and show, now that we know the song, the sound, let's go in a little bit deeper and show what are these, in a way, abbreviations for? What are the real words? So what we have is ah. That's this first one here. Ah. It's actually a lot. And what is a lot? Cow. When we draw the symbol, we're going to see that kind of looks like a cow. There you go. So this is the ancient Hebrew character for the letter A, as we call it, or the ah sound. And if you see it, it's just like rotated. Like if you rotated this the other way, that's like the English A, what they did to it. They kind of turn it around. Next, we have the ba. And this is ba yath. And it's a tent. And the symbol is like the letter B, like a backwards B in the ancient. So you got Abba. What is Abba? Father. The father is in the first two characters of the alphabet. Next one, the Ga. Which is part of Gamal, which is camel. And the symbol looks like a camel, long neck. That's what the symbol looks like. So we have A, Ba, Ga. Next we're going to add is the Da. And this will be Dalath, which stands for door. And the symbol for that is like a triangle. So if you picture what the English alphabet did, it kind of just like turned it, and that's where the D came from. So think of like they turned it and then did that, and then they flipped it around. That's what they did to form those other characters. The next one is the Ha. And the Ha is for Ana, which is behold. And that symbol kind of looks like an F in a way, but it's backwards compared to what we're normally used to seeing in English. So that's the first 5 of the first line. Next we have the Wa. And it's a Wa, and that's actually a fish hook. And it looks like this. Almost like the letter U with a line down it. So it's like a fish hook. Next one we have is Za. There's the za and Zion, which is weapon. And this is what our letter Z looks like in English. It's the same letter as the start of the za and Zion, which is the weapon. Next, we have the ka. So again, remember, this is not ka, it's ka, as if there's something in your throat. And you see, this one is C-H-A-A, and it's the beginning of kawama. Which is a fence. So the symbol is actually, looks like a fence. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's the symbol for it. Next, we have the ta. Which is tana. And that is basket. And this one, think of the bottom of a basket of what it looks like.
Step to the side.
Like an X, and then a circle around the X. So like you're looking into the bottom of a basket. So that's what the ta is. Now we have the ya. And this will be yad, which is hand. Ya, it's yad, and it's hand. And this symbol, it's like a Z. I'm going to show you how I write it. It almost looks like a Z, but it's on an angle, and then it has an extra piece in front of it. So that's the ya sound, what it looks like. Next, we have the ka. And that would be kop. Which is a palm or a spoon. So think like the palm of your hand, or like a spoon. That's what kop is, the palm. And the symbol, think of like you're drawing like a letter C, or like spoon. And then it's got this there. So think of, in English, if you were writing the letter K, they took that and made it into that. Okay. Now we have the La. And this is La Mad. Which means learn. And that's what we're doing today. We are learning the Holy Tongue. So this symbol is just like the letter L we have in English. Down across the letter L. Now we have the Ma. That will be Ma Yum. Ma Yum. Ma Yum. That is water. Now, how we write that, think of you're flipping around the M upside down. So it'll be almost like a W. Then as you just drag it down, so that's the symbol. So it's kind of like a W, or think of flipping around the M, and that's what the symbol looks like. Next we have the Na. And the Na is Nawan. And Nawan is sprout. So it's similar what the Mayam did. We're going to do the same thing with the N. Think of like you're flipping this around, except it's just an N. And then go down. So it looks like a sprout. So you got the M on the way upside down, and the N like that. Next we have the Sa. So that would be Sa Mak. And Samak is establish. And this symbol is drawn like this, like you're establishing a stake, and there's 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Establish. Next, we have the I. We'll do this up top, so running out of space on the bottom. So this I would be I, Yan. And that is an I. And the symbol is a circle, which looks like an eye. Ayan. Eye. Next, we have the pa. So you have the pa. We'll add an H to it, and that is your mouth. And the symbol would be like a smiley face in a way, like the mouth, the side of your mouth. Like from this angle, you can see it's like, or this angle. Not sure how backwards. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. It's like the mouth, like from the side view. Next, we have the taza. Now, this is the only character that's got two sounds to it, but it's only one symbol. So taza tazad, there's the taza part, and then to the tazad is actually the side. And I like this character, because at first when I saw it, I was like, what is that? Think of a man laying on his side. So it's just one line down, and like a Z kind of deal connected to it. So think of it like a guy crouching down on his side, laying sideways. So that's what Tazad is. Now, how I remember this character is Chinese General Tso's chicken. That's what the sound is. It's the Tazad or the So. That's the same kind of sound what was generated for this. So this one is not in English, right? But that's where it kind of comes from. You get the pronunciation of it. All right, now we have Kwa, which is Kwam. And this stands for rise. And think of this like a sunrise. Like here's the sun. So it's like a Q on the side in a way. Next we have is Ra'ah, or Ra, and it'll be Ra'ash. Ra, the Ash. And the Rash is your head. And this looks like the number 4 in a way, but it's up, down, down. It's kind of like a backwards 4. Think of the head of somebody, and then there's the body. So that's the head. I'm gonna make some space. We're done with that one. We're done with that one. We have the Shah and the Tha to go. So the Shah is actually part of the word Shan, which is tooth. if you think what teeth kind of look like, it's almost like the letter W. One marker. Almost like the letter W. See how teeth got like some fangs here? So that's what the tooth is. And the last one we have is Da. And this one, that's a Thaw with a W at the end, and it means mark. Think of X marks the spot. Or in a way like the cross on the side, but it's like an X or like a cross on the side, like that. And that is your Hebrew alphabet in the ancient. Any questions, sir?
So far, no question. We got a comment. We got Officer Sha'al in the building. Officer Sha'al said checking in from the Bronx. We got Officer Yaquataza, Shalom Yabashim Shabrak. Shout out to the sister that's watching. And then we got Rabbi Ya'ala, say that's heavy, the water, sir.
Shalom, sir. Okay, any questions so far?
If you have any questions, just type them in the chat, and also make sure you sign in the attendance sheet.
Okay. Should we post a link in the chat for that, sir?
It's in the chat.
Okay. It's 8:15. We got time? Okay. Well, the next is going into the Assyrian, which is more complicated. 15 minutes, I can knock it out. But I'm going to do it so you guys can at least see. And the reason why I told you to learn just the sounds themselves, ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, ta, za, kwa, ra, sha, da, is that once you know those sounds, now you can actually flip it and translate it into the ancient letters, which you just seen. And next, it's the Assyrian characters. Now, the very first time I saw these blew my head up because how it's preserved in the text, it's done by the Jewish man. So he has all of these extra dots and dashes and all this stuff around, and it makes it far more complicated as he's trying to create vowels and all these other sounds, and that's where this Yiddish comes from. But as you see, it's just the ah we have. Ah, 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 as we go throughout this. So it's very, very simple in the sound. And that's why we are his sheep and know his voice, because we talk sheep. And it seems so simple, but it is. It really is that simple. So I'm going to show you the Assyrian. And if you come to class, make sure you grab one of these. This is where you can actually see the ancient with the English sound, and then the Assyrian characters underneath it. This last row is simply someone's handwriting version of it. What I'm going to do now is this second row here, because this is like how the text is preserved. Okay, so the first part is nothing more than a review of what we did earlier. First in the English. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha. And if we remember our song, that was the first 5 characters. We're just going to put a comma so you can remember how we learned the song. Abba, ga, da, ha. Next, we have the next 5 characters. Wa, za, ka, ha, ta, ya. Okay. Next 5 characters. Ka, la, ma, na, sa. 5 characters, 5 characters, 5 characters. Next, there were 3 characters. I, ha, taza. Remember, there were 3 characters, but as far as syllables, the taza counts as 2, so technically it's 4 syllables as far as the song's concerned. And then the last 4, kwa, ra, sha, da. Now, when I did this and learned this, I pretty much just did it on a piece of paper, and I wrote all of that, and it fit across one piece of paper all the way across, from beginning to end. So if you have a single piece of paper that you're learning on, you can do this in one row. I'm just separating it so it's bigger on the board so you can see it. But when you're practicing on your own and just have a plain white piece of paper or your notepad, you can fit the 22 characters across, just like as this piece of paper has it. You know, it fits the 22 characters across. So let's now put in the ancient symbols. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya. Ka, la, ma, na, sa. I, pa, to za. Kwa, ra, sha, da. That's simply a review of what we did today. And a new way to see it, and a new form to see it, just like how you learn from this sheet here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Assyrian version underneath it. I'm going to put this in blue here. Ah. Now this, you're going to see all kinds of squigglies and things like that. At first, it's going to look all the same to you. As you eventually start doing this and physically start writing this on your own, you're going to fill an entire notepad up. You're going to fill 2 notepads up. You're going to fill 3 notepads up. That's what I did. It was just constant repetition. And then eventually, all these squigglies and things start to look clearer. And then you get to understand it. Now, I have not the greatest eyesight with reading the books because the text is very, very small. So it's very hard to read. So what I do personally is that I go to the BibleHub.com and I put it on my phone and I blow my phone up 150%. So when you see me reading at the Sabbath service, I'm actually reading from my phone and it's just blown up really big so I can see the letters. So that's, we're going to write these characters here. So this is the B. Here's the Ga. Then the Da. It's almost like a door, right? So you're going to see this squiggly kind of deal. So there's the Ba, right? Our tent. The Ga. Think of your camel. The Da, the door. Next we have the Ha. It's almost just like the Da, right? But then there's another squiggly. And the squiggly is a space. So it's almost like you draw the same Da, and there's a space to it. So you have to make sure that there's a space up there. Because there's another character that looks just like this, except there's no space. And that little space is what differentiates the letters. Now we have the Wa. Which is pretty much 2 strokes. 1, 2. So one's on an angle, the other one's down. Now what's really different is that compared to the Da, you might think, oh, wait a minute, these things are the same. Nah, this got the squiggly side, this has a straight side. It's almost like the Wa is the first part of the Ga here. See, so it's got that and that, that and that, versus this, the Da, it's got the squiggly. The Ha, it's got the squiggly with another squiggly and a space. So these are the real subtleties that I'm pointing out to you that tripped me up in the beginning because you're like, wait a minute, this looks all the same. Okay? The Za is almost similar to the Wa, but you're doing this. You got a squiggly up top and a squiggly at the bottom. So that's what distinguishes that character. Then you have the Ka, which is like this Ha here, except it's closed. So as if you're drawing the Da, right? You're just going to add another line connected to it. And that's the difference. This is closed. This ha is opened. So that's the difference. Now the ta was our basket. Think again like a basket, except this is the side view of the basket. Okay, so you put something in there from the top, and this is like the side view of the basket. The ya, it's a very small character, but it's a very important one. You will see this a lot. So it's just down, a swirl, and down. It's not as tall as the other ones. It's almost like half the size in a way. And the others are similar size so far. Now the ka, this is where it gets fancy. First, you still got the cup, right? Think of the palm. But there's actually two characters. If this letter appears at the end of a word, you use a different character. Why? They made it unnecessarily complicated. And it's just a line across, and just think a long line down. So if this sound appears anywhere through the word, it's this one. If it appears at the end of the word, it's this one. Like, what other language does that? You know, it's like, why would you have two different characters for the same sound? But that's how this works. The la is like an L, more of a squiggly kind of L, so think. Okay, so it's like an L that way. The ma is two versions of this. When it's used throughout, think of it going up, down, over. There's a space there, and a little squiggly line up top. When it appears at the end of a word, the ma sound, it's closed. So you see, it's actually completely closed, and you have that little overhang. But this appears at the end of a word. The na, think of how the wa was just drawn. So far it's like that. But then we're going to put an extra line. So that's what the end sound is. This one also has a special character at the end of the word. Notice the width of this. The width of this
Going all the way, right?
is smaller than this.
Going all the way through.
I'm almost done with this.
So you're going all the way through.
Come on. You want to go through?
You're going all the way through. You're not clipping it.
Oh, okay. Come on. So the width is smaller than this. So think of this and down. So it's kind of hard to see. It looks the same, but I purposely exaggerated this side so that you see it's wider. Okay, that this one is longer. Also, this character, because it appears at the end of the word, I'm going to exaggerate fully just so you can see that the height of these, of this one and this one, is longer than the other ones. Okay? Because these appear at the end of the word. So whenever you see it, you know, you're spelling a word and you see it at the end and you see it's this long, you know it's the special character because it's just really long. And those only appear at the end of words. Now the sa, it's almost like a circle, but there's a lip on it. So it's this. It's like you're doing this and this circle. So unlike the I in the ancient, The sa has got, it's a circle, but it's got a little lip on the end. Now the I, think of 1, 2, 3, a little squiggly one, and try to put some squigglies up top. It's like the letter Y in a way. All right, so what the I is. The pa, which is the mouth, the first one looks like a backwards G. So it's like that. This one also has a special character when it appears at the end of the word. So the first two steps, 1, 2, 1, 2. But instead of doing a cup, we're going to do a down. So you're going to see this as being long, this as being long, and this as being long. Happens at the end of the word. Is when you use the secondary version. The tazah it's almost like a Y in a way. So it's like tazah. That's how you do that one. And there's a secondary tazah at the end of the word too. So that one will be, again, a long version, long version, long version, long version. Almost looking like a Y, but remember, these are longer. This is almost like a lowercase y, almost like a longer case y. Next, we have the qua. So it's almost like a Q in a way. It's another funny character. But it's a cool character. I like this one. It's unique. You know, you've probably never seen anything like this. The Ra is just like the letter R. So the Ra is like R. The Sha looks similar to the W. Then it's got that. I like to throw some squiggly lines after that. And the Tha looks just like the Ra, starting 1, 2, and then you do a down bend. So that's the Tha sound. So now you can translate, because you understood the English sounds and the English song that we created, and then you can now just translate to either the ancient or the Assyrian. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Well, that's what I had planned for today, to get up to this point and break it down up to this part. The most important part here is to physically do it, and you have to repeat it. You have to write it yourself. Until you do that, you're not going to remember it, because it's very complicated when you look at it in the big grand scheme of things. But as you broke it down in the steps, as I progressed to this level, you can do this fairly quickly. And then your mind is going to start getting trained. As you see these new symbols for the first time, you're then going to be able to translate the sound into the symbol. And what words are is nothing more than combinations of sounds put together. And when I first started reading, I was like a robot. You know, I wasn't like, there was no flow to my reading, because what I was doing is just simply pronouncing each letter, which is what you're really doing. After time, you're going to start seeing, as the letters start coming together, they start forming words, and you'll sound more natural over time. It took me a few months to get to that level. But what helped me the most is that you have to memorize this. You really have to memorize that, because until you get this, understand the two sets of characters from the ancient and the modern, you're not going to be able to read yet. Because the ancient, there is no book completely written of the Bible in the ancient that we have. We do have the Assyrian, because that's what we were in captivity. We were forced to learn this new language and hide who we were and speak this other tongue. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is that in these blue letters here, there's not any dots or dashes around them, because when you read it in the book, you're going to see dots, dashes, and things like that. You could completely ignore that. And what helped me again is that I use my phone and I blow it up. So what I use, I go to the Bible Hub, okay, and I use this website. And if you could see on here, I don't know if they can see that yet, okay, you're going to see that there's dots and dashes around this thing. You see those letters? You see how there's a dot in the middle, then there's two dots down below, then there's a couple more dots, and then some dashes, and all that you could ignore. Okay? Notice I didn't add any of these dots or dashes in the blue letters here, because that's the Jewish man trying to make vowels and sounds and make it complicated when it's unnecessary. Most High gave us a pure language, as he said in the scripture. It's very simple, his language, which makes sense. It has less characters than English. It's easier to memorize. The characters are actually pictures of physical things that we interact with on a daily basis. So we're a visual people. We can see it. All we have to do is keep on sounding ah, and that's essentially the letter. It's not more complicated than that. And that's how our language sounds. Any questions at all?
No questions.
Okay. Well, if you want to cut it now, sir, we can cut it now. I think we covered a lot.
Most High in Christ. Clap it up, man. Clap it up, Sha'afwan. Officer 50, Sha'afwan. Most High in Christ, doing his first Hebrew class. The fundamentals of the Hebrew. Should be back, all right? That Most High in Christ. All right, ISUPK security announcement. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Room for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After the 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18 and 21. Malachi 3 verses 8 to 10 means tenth in the Hebrew. Ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocation. Right now, we are in the feast of Hanukkah. All right, this ends, I believe, the 8th day should be Thursday. All right, we are currently on the 2nd day of the feast of Hanukkah. That's when our people, the Levite, when you read in the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 through chapter 4, specifically in chapter 4, verse 52 to 61, right? That's when we had this convocation. It's not a high holy day, but it is a feast day that we celebrate when we dedicate it back to the temple, dedicated to cleaning house. And this is what our people, we need to do at this time. We need to clean house. We need to get rid of all the idols, get rid of all the vain philosophies, get rid of every custom that the heathen, that our oppressors have imposed on us. Right now, we're just celebrating, our people are in the world celebrating Christmas, and on January 1st, getting ready to celebrate New Year's. And this is against our custom. So the Feast of Hanukkah, we are cleaning house, dedicating back to the temple, truly dedicating ourselves to the Most High. And this is what we have to do as a people. With that, men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Imajim, which means to stand. Men of Israel, Imajim Shabbat, Imajim, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatam. To the sisters watching, Yahweh Shamar Alatam Ba'Hashem Yahushua. Yajmata, dismiss. Sign Christ.